We are back for another Talk About It Tuesday, and we have a very emotionally charged question. So I'm going to be very careful with my answer to this, and I'm going to break it up into little pieces. And so I don't make any errors, I took a few notes to make sure I don't miss anything, because this is a tough one here. What is it about Nigeria that black people will not invest in their economy, but whites have forever drained its reputation and resources? All right, so let's just break that into pieces. So why don't black people invest? Black people do invest in Nigeria. Nigeria is a predominantly black country run by black people, and its population, which is enormous, I believe it's like 211 million people, are predominantly black. And so their main source of revenue is oil, right? 95% of their GDP is based on oil revenue. And their oil is controlled by the state. It's state run, state controlled, and it is the main supplier of oil to all of Africa. I believe they have 18 pipelines that run out of Nigeria. So it is black people who own and control, and black people who are the beneficiaries of the oil. So it is a misnomer to say that black people don't, right? Is there foreign investment in Nigeria? Absolutely. But let's look at the foreign investment in Nigeria. So you have foreign direct investment, which means that a foreigner owns a direct interest in a company, and you have foreign portfolio investment, which means that a foreigner has a portfolio of either stocks or bonds or derivatives or some type of paper asset in Nigeria. And so when we look at foreign direct investment, you're talking about 116 different countries that have foreign direct investment in Nigeria, and they represent every continent pretty much on the planet. So you have other African countries, you have Australians, you have Asian countries, you have North American countries, and you have South American countries that all have foreign direct investment. And so that includes, and I don't have the ethnic breakup of the populations there, but clearly you have blacks, brown, white, you have pretty much the range that invest in their foreign direct investment. When you're talking about foreign portfolio investment, it's 106 different countries that still represent the gamut in terms of continents. And so there again is a wide range of people. It is not just black and white, it's the range of people on the planet who take advantage of the Nigerian economy, and have an opportunity to make profit from it. So I assume perhaps the questioner is not really saying black versus white, but maybe African Americans. Why do African Americans not invest in Nigeria? All right, so that's a little bit different question, but let's take a look at that. We know that in America, there is a huge wealth gap between blacks and whites, right? And we know that there are historical factors that played a major role in the wealth gap. And so when we look at statistically, right, African Americans make up 13% of the American population, but we're disproportionate in terms of wealth. And when we say wealth, we're talking about property ownership, we're talking about investments, we're talking about business ownership. And so I don't mess this up, when you look at African Americans versus others when it comes to investments, owning stocks, only 55% of African Americans own stocks, as opposed to 71.2% of whites in America. However, the largest increase percentage-wise of people who are new investors in 2020 were black people, and mostly younger black people under 50. So we represented, of course, a smaller proportion, but the largest growth in terms of new investors. When we look at black business ownership in America, African American business ownership versus white business ownership, we have 2.5 million black business owners, which represents 9.5% of all businesses, which is again disproportionate, as opposed to 19 million businesses owned by whites, which is 71% of all businesses. So we see the disproportion there. When we look at property ownership, we have African Americans who 47.6% are property owners, as opposed to 76% of whites who are property owners. So clearly there's a large gap, and clearly we're newer, right? And even at 47% is an increase, 7% increase, I think, over last year in terms of black property ownership. So when you look at it, of course, again, we know there are historical reasons, systemic reasons, there are serious reasons why we started later, because we were absolutely stopped from participating in that. But we're in an infancy stage in investing today. So when you look at it, we're new to domestic investing. So to suggest that perhaps we should partake in foreign investment when we're just learning, right? Because there's more than just inheritance of wealth. There's also inheritance of knowledge and skills and resources and networks and all those things that we're just trying to play catch up with now. We're just starting to understand the economic system and the political system and how they interact and how money is made outside of having a job, right? And so being new at that, it would be kind of strange to suddenly go into a foreign investment where that's a whole different ballgame, right? When you're talking about investing outside of the country, you have to understand their political system, their judicial system. You have to understand what you're trying to gain in terms of your investment goals and whether it fits in your portfolio. You have to understand the risk, right? And so let's just break that down. When you invest, it is to get a return. But it's not only to get a return, it's also evaluating the risk that's involved in getting the return. So when we look at Nigeria specifically, there are some serious issues of concern that any investor, especially a new investor, has to deal with. So their judicial system and their regulatory system is ranked one of the lowest in the world by foreign investors. When you look at the corruption level and the corruption index, there's a corruption index that foreign investors, they do the survey, and Nigeria ranks one of the bottom in terms of corruption. So the judicial system doesn't protect contract rights. There's massive corruption and payoffs. When you look at, they're just coming out of a recession right now. There's massive poverty in certain areas, right? So they have a huge wealth disparity. There are security issues. When you talk about intellectual property rights aren't respected. When you're talking about cybersecurity, some serious issues with cybersecurity. When you're talking about the level of kidnappings that have increased, kidnappings for ransom of foreigners has increased significantly. And then in parts of Nigeria, you have Boko Haram and the Islamic State in West Africa. And so you have all these things that will affect your ability to feel comfortable with direct investment, meaning ownership in a company, or even in portfolio investing, right? And so the bottom line is, should African Americans be looking to Nigeria right now as a potential investment location? I don't give investment tips, so I won't say yes or no, but I will tell you that just because a place is highly melanated doesn't make it a good place to invest your money, especially when you're a new investor and you're just getting your feet wet. So you'll have to make that decision as to whether you want to seek out an investment in Nigeria or not, but you have to consider everything you would consider domestically and then relearn it for that specific location to make sure that what you're doing fits your investment goals and meets your criteria in regards to risk. So great question, tough question, but keep the questions coming. I'd love to hear your comments at the bottom. You know, like, share, you know, do all those nice things so that we can spread the word and have people, you know, come in and give us some more great questions. But keep the questions coming, and I'll see you next Tuesday.